To set up the notching bit, I put the removable guard on here. We don't need the fence for this operation, and I'm using the sliding table so that we can move the pieces across the bit. Since this is a large bit, we got to make sure to dial down the speed on the router. In hardwood, with this size bit, the manual for the OF1400 recommends a speed setting of 3, so that's what I've turned it down to. For this setup, I've got the sliding table fence in the high position. This piece is pretty tall, so this will give good support for it. We also want to make sure we adjust this so it goes out almost to the bit, but not touching it. That way we give the most support to the piece, but then we don't end up damaging or cutting this fence. So just a couple notes on clamping and safety. This is a really big bit, and when you run the workpiece past this bit, if you don't clamp it down or hold it against this fence tight enough, it might lift up just because of the way the bit is shaped. So clamping is very important. Personally, I like using this Craig clamp here. This is something that they sell, and you can just use it on the fence like that. You'll be taking it on and off a lot, so this is really handy. You can set it for 1 piece, 2 pieces, so this you'll find really handy. And actually, I think this is the Craig clamp that they sell with their face frame jig. Another option you can use is these hand clamps. They don't work as well. Now, if you do hold the piece on the fence, it does a relatively good job. You just got to make sure that this is actually tightened down. You can use one of these vice clamp, hand screw clamps here. These are a little more tedious, but this is great if you want to do a whole bunch of pieces at once. Large capacity, so you do like 4 frame pieces all at the same time. What I don't recommend though is just holding it like this. One, because it's not safe. This is a huge bit, and we don't have as much protection as just because of the shape of the piece here. So I'd like to keep my hands away from here. So any type of clamping, you can even use a bar clamp or a quick clamp, something like that. Got an extra piece of T-track here I've attached to the top of this fence. This will help us set the distance away from the bit so that we can just butt our pieces up to the stop later so we can get some consistency. We won't set this until after we make the test cut for the height and also figure out where we actually need to set this stop. To set the bit height, I'd like the flat part of this bit to coincide with the height of this quirk right here. And we're trying to make a 45-degree angled cut that ends right at the quirk. For the first pass, I'm going to use an extra piece of scrap that I cut with the bead profile. We'd like the bit height to cut right up to the square edge of this quirk here. So I start the bit a little lower, and then I'll move up to get as close as possible to that. And the CMS makes that very easy because it's super easy to adjust the bit height. So now I'll just check the height of the setup. Usually it's better to leave it low and go a little higher as you go along. You can see a little piece here, this little ridge right here. You can see that, you can feel that. That means I need to raise the router bit just a hair. When this is gone, that means our height setting is correct. As we take small passes, we'll cut away a small amount, and then until the angle ends right at this line if you drew it down from the quirk. That's when you know you've got the distance from the bit set correctly. And you can use a T-stop like the T-track stop I showed you, or you can use the flip stop to set the distance so that you have consistent. Now that would only work if you had pieces of the same length, which in most cases, if you're cutting rails, since cabinets are typically a fixed width, you won't have any problem with that. For the styles, it's a different story, but the flip stop will help us achieve that. We'll do basically 2 settings. So this one has a little bit left to go. We'll just chase up to it, and then we can set the fence stop. With the proper setting achieved here, I put a hand clamp on there, just hold it in place, and I can set my fence stop. And I can use this setting for all pieces. Now, what I do like to do is to do more than one piece at the same time. I can keep this piece right here because it's already been cut. If I use the other pieces and line them up, I can also use this as a backer board, and it'll help blow out at the back of the piece after the bit cuts through.